hopefully. Welcome to the Hull and Back Hull City versus Bristol City opposition preview with Matthew Withers from the Three Peeps and a Podcast. Is that the name?
Yep, Three Peeps and a Podcast. That's right. Yeah, Bristol City Podcast.
That's a very good one. It's one of the best ones I've come across. I don't quite exactly know the link to Bristol, but it's a good name anyway.
Yeah, there's not. Yeah, so the podcast was started by a gentleman called Patch Warner and a couple of his mates, Rich Brown and Mike, and it was just a general podcast based on things in and around Bristol. I met Patch at the local BBC radio studios on they do a Monday night a Bristol City show, and we got talking, became friends, and then Patch then went on to develop a bonus show which is purely based on Bristol City, and he's then done a further one called Robins Reunited, which brings back ex-players talking about their kind of career at Bristol City and what they've been on to since. So yeah, so there's three versions of Three Peeps in the Podcast, and yeah, I do the bonus show with Patch on Bristol City.
Okay, that sounds great. So we are sponsored by Pearson's Bar and 6 Yards Out. Now let's get into the questions then. So,
okay.
I mean, it's the first game of the season on Saturday, so I thought it'd be a good chance to look back at last year as well, and then look forward for the season as a whole. So you finished 17th last season. Was that good or bad for Bristol City?
Not great, to be fair, Nathaniel. It was probably expected. We hadn't had a good couple of years. The COVID years, the football that we watched was dire. We brought Nigel Pearson in, and we had a couple of really good early sort of results with him. A bit of that kind of new manager bounce, I guess. But then things sort of dropped off, and as I say, result-wise was horrendous. We managed to scrape staying up the season before last, and we expected better last year. But in truth, we conceded late in the first game at home to Blackpool.
Yes.
Then we lost to Forest Green Rovers in the Cup, and then we just struggled a little bit. Our home record was dreadful. Then we had a bit of a patch, sort of Christmas and afterwards, where we improved and did enough to stay in the league. But I do genuinely think if we'd not seen the likes of Derby and their problems, the fact Peterborough couldn't win a game, and also Barnsley, I think we would have been in a bit of a relegation sort of battle. So we thought we'd probably finish mid-table, so it was probably worse than we actually thought. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I mean, well, City had a pretty difficult start to the season as well.
Yeah.
And I think we were in a fairly similar boat, that if it hadn't been for Derby and Reading and that sort of thing, we would have been, probably still would have stayed up, but it would have been tough. And I mean, you were just 4 points above us, I think. We were 19th.
Yeah. And I guess the last home game that we had kind of contributed to that, because obviously we played you sort of or the second penultimate game, didn't we? But yeah, it was just, I'm kind of hanging my hat on that Huddersfield were dreadful the year before, and hopefully we can do what Huddersfield did last season and perhaps go the step further. But yeah, we like you, we struggled. I mean, you didn't have the greatest of starts, but did manage to turn it around, and then went on a really good run, didn't you?
Yes, around October or November, we changed formation.
Yeah.
And then we improved, like you said, after Christmas. So really, that's the Championship for you. You just need a good run.
I think it shows as well that just how difficult a league it is. I think the teams, Peterborough came up the year before, I think with you, didn't they? Was it with you that you came up with Peterborough?
Yeah, we don't really like Peterborough very much because they're always trying to stay up or go up with us. Or at least I think that.
Yeah, and also they've now got your ex-manager as well, I guess.
Yes.
In McCann, haven't they? But obviously they came up, I think, as champions, but really struggled last year. Barnsley.
Oh, we won the league. We won the league.
I beg your pardon. Yeah. I beg your pardon. But they, I felt that they would probably do okay. And I listened to the Football League podcast, and they had Blackpool, Peterborough, and yourselves all doing really well. And I think it just shows how difficult the step up is. So I think Rotherham, you would expect to be struggling a bit this season, but you just don't know. You just don't know
I think we
Which
all know
clubs own
Rotherham are
it?
going down. I'd be pretty
Well,
confident of that.
yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? But I don't know the sort of the blend of talent he's now got there. Sometimes if you go up and you keep that momentum going, then you can obviously get a run of results. Confidence breeds confidence, and they may then be okay. But yeah, they certainly would be my favourites to go down, and I think Birmingham, are struggling as well. But you just don't know. I mean, again, going back to last season, we more than anything, and I don't know if it's the same for you and your fan base, but I think as football fans, you can take losing a game if you lose a
Mhm.
game in the right way.
Yes.
What we were watching a lot of the time last year was rubbish,
Mm.
and you were losing games and not even being entertained. Certainly, around that mid-season mark, especially. So yeah, it's part of why we love football, I guess. You just don't know what's around the corner, do you? So yeah.
Exactly. Right. So you mentioned about Nigel Pearson, of course, a former Hull
Mm.
City manager. Well, do you think he's the right man for Bristol City, and will he be here this time next year?
Interesting question, and I don't know what his record is like now, but certainly when I looked at stages last season, um, he had the second poorest record ever in terms of win rate for a Bristol City manager.
Oh dear.
Now, yeah, we signed a lot of players on fairly big contracts that really aren't at the level needed for the Championship. Not under Nigel Pearson. This is under the previous regime,
Hmm.
and more to do with the CEO that we had. So when Nigel Pearson came in, absolutely felt he was the right man for the job. And I'll go on record now as saying I still think he is. But I think that the huge part of the fan base thought we've had what get termed yes men, I guess, because our chairman or owner is very, very wealthy,
We used to
and we
have
always
some of
felt.
those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and obviously, I know you've had a few that have not necessarily been the best for the club and for the fan
Mhm.
base. Our owner, Steve Lansdowne, is unbelievable what he's done for the club. The money that he's ploughed into the stadium, the infrastructure, the money that he's spent on players as well, but probably not to the extent that was needed for top quality players. I think we overpaid for a lot of players. So when he brought Nigel Pearson in, a lot of fans felt that we had a manager that would shake things up, wouldn't be a yes man to the owner if that was the case. And as I said, we hit the ground running, had a couple of really good results. He'd only literally come through the door, and we beat Middlesbrough away. Then we played Swansea away, got hammered in the first half, but then scored in the 3 goals in the second half to win that. And you kind of thought, yeah, this is just the sort of bloke we need. Very, very like you. I mean, you will have seen him as much as me, I guess, from when he was in charge of you. But his media, he doesn't deal with the media that great, or he certainly
No.
that's not the way to phrase it. But if they ask him a silly question, he doesn't answer them, or he tells them
Mhm.
it's a silly question, and that was something new for us. We weren't used to seeing
Yeah.
someone so kind of bullish. But it's a result business, and we weren't seeing the results. And even though, as I say, his record was dreadful, I would still say about 75% of the fan base are still fully behind him,
Hmm.
still feel he needs to have, like he's done this pre-season, bring a few players in. Still, we've got some players we know we need to get rid of. He's been tasked with bringing the wage bill down as well. So I think fans kind of allowed him that, leeway, if you like. This season, I think, will be different. I think if we witness the football that we've witnessed over the last couple of years, and results-wise we're not seeing, then I think some of the fan base will start to turn. But I would say at the moment, yeah, there's still the vast majority are fully behind him and think that he's absolutely the right man for the job.
Hmm.
But like anything, time will tell.
Yeah. So really, you're quite pleased in a way, but he hasn't got long until that goodwill won't last forever.
Yeah, I mean, he came in, so we had the full season last. Did he have a full season last season? No, Dean Holden was with us at the start. But he, as I say, the results weren't great. I think he will probably, dependent on the run and where we are, if we're around mid-table, which is where I think we probably will end up,
Mhm.
then I think fans will probably be okay with that, as long as what we're watching is a better spectacle. But if he goes on a run of sort of results like he had last season, I'm not sure the fans would put up with it. I certainly don't think the owner would necessarily put up with it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I was looking at the new signings, and I was a bit surprised because we've signed about 8, but I think Bristol City have only brought in 3. Do you think
You
that
have?
the signings are enough at the moment?
No, I don't. I think the signings we've made are certainly on paper good quality, and I've been fortunate enough to watch the pre-season games live. And we signed Carl Naismith, sorry, from Luton Town. He was their Player of the Year last year.
Yeah, I was
Playing sort
surprised to
of,
see him go from
yeah.
Luton to Bristol.
Well, it's a strange one. I guess in terms of where Luton were, absolutely. In terms
Hmm.
of the size of the club and the infrastructure that we've got, I'm an honest Bristol City fan. We've been in the Championship for a few years now, but we've bounced between bottom of the Championship, top of the First Division. We were in the First Division, the old First Division, way before your time, in the late 70s, and then we've not been in that top flight since. So I think for us with Luton, I know our training ground, our high performance centre is amazing. So I think him coming, I think the wages that we offered will have been more than Luton were. So I think that came into it. So he's a really good signing. I've watched a lot of him in pre-season. He's a great talker, great leader. So I think he will be great. Interesting one is Kane Wilson, who's a right wing back that we signed from
Hmm.
Forest Green Rovers.
Yeah, don't know much about him.
Yeah, he was on on West Brom's books as a youngster. He's only 22, I think, but a real flying sort of wing back. At Forest
Hmm.
Green Rovers, he was again their Player of the Year. He was the only player from that division to make the Football League Team of the Season. Lots of, I think, a fair few goals, but certainly a great deal of assists. And it was quite funny that we were really, really keen when his name was being touted for him to
Hmm.
sign. And when you think you're looking at a League Two player and that's your
Yeah.
almost star signing, maybe that says a little bit about where
Yeah.
we are as well.
It's got
Um,
potential, though, I would assume.
yeah, very much so. And watching him in pre-season, he really does fly. He puts the ball in the box, causes all sorts of problems. So I think he'd be a great signing. And we've also signed Mark Sykes from Oxford
Hmm.
United,
Is he Player of the
who's
Year?
no, he wasn't. No, and
Ah,
usually,
that's a
so we did
shame.
it with the other two. Exactly, yeah, did it with the other two. But yeah, he's a bit more of a utility player. So I think he sees himself as a wide of a front three, but he's also played right wing back. We've
Hmm.
deployed him in a kind of
Useful
a
to have
role
in
in
this league.
behind. Exactly. Saw him in the first preseason game, and he looked a little bit lost. The next 3 or 4 games I've seen him in, he's been the best player. So I'm hopeful that he will be really good. But we've also got quite a good Andy Weimann scored a lot of goals for us last season and
Yes.
a lot of assists, 20 goals, 10 assists. Was excellent. We've got Chris Martin, who you
Hmm.
obviously had
He
before on
was
loan as well.
horrendous for us. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I think whether it was fitness levels or
He was sick, I think. He actually had an
was
illness
he?
for us.
Ah,
Yeah.
right. Well, he's not to win. He's not won over everybody, I would say. But I think again, perhaps fans of a certain age and who recognise the job that he does, he's never going
Hmm.
to score us 20 goals a season. He got into double figures last year,
It's
but
decent.
he wins an awful lot of a ball in the air. So I like him. But the real one that we've got is a player called Antoine Semenyo. Um,
Yeah.
who unfortunately is out injured at the moment. He's not available for the game the weekend, and we think he's probably not going to be back until September. But a real powerhouse of a youngster. We picked him up from a local academy, but a really, really good player. Chelsea bid for him a couple of years ago when he hadn't even really played for us.
Mm.
But he's going to be missing. But if we keep him past the transfer window and he comes back fit, then he's a big player for us. And we've also got Alex Scott, a midfielder. Again, he's played right wing back for us, but he can play in the middle. He can play wide. He can play as a 10. Just come back as part of the under-19s European champions, and was sort of heavily featured in that. So again, if we hold on to him, I think squad-wise we're not too bad. But as any football fan knows, get a few injuries, loss of form, then you start to look. So going back to your original question, do I think three's enough? No, I don't. I think we need certainly another centre half, probably another centre midfielder, and probably a striker. If we can get a couple more in there, I think we'd be okay. Nigel Pearson's come on record to say, at the moment, nothing will happen.
That was my next question.
Until we get some more players out. Whether that's youngsters going out on loan or whether we've got a couple of other players that probably they're out of contract at the end of the season that they might try and get rid of slightly sooner than that. So it will be interesting. I was really buoyed with the fact that we've made those 3 signings. We made them all really early, and then there's been nothing since. Exactly. So yeah.
Because I seemed a little bit. I thought that was a bit worrying that maybe only these 3 players had come in and only one of them from this league, player of the year or not. That's a little worrying, and you need big squads in the Championship. But Bristol,
you do.
Yeah, they're a team I imagine has a
like
decent squad.
Well, no, not really, and I think that's the thing. Nigel Pearson wants to operate on a smaller squad,
right?
But we've got again, as I said, with Semenyo, we've got him in being injured.
It's a risk, isn't it?
It really is. We've got Thomas Callas, a Czech international, who's out injured as well. He's out of contract at the end of the year. We've got Naki Wells, who's out of contract at the end of the season. And if a couple of bids come in for those, it always worries me because we seem to do our business late, even though I contradict myself because we did it early for those 3 signings. But we end up getting ourselves caught. We end up selling players, and then we can't get anybody in. But I also think it's quite a strange transfer window, this window. Premier League clubs are keeping older players at the moment because they're allowed 7 subs now, and it's going to be different. But I didn't realise you'd made 8 signings. I know you is it Lewis Potter that you lost?
Yeah, he's gone to Brentford. We might be trying to sign a striker from Brentford to replace him, sort of. But we've made 8, and there should be 2 or 3 in the next 2 weeks, and then maybe some more after that. We'll have a whole new squad, really. So it's been very busy.
Any names of note? I know I saw you signed a couple of Turkish lads, didn't you? Which I guess.
Yeah, we've signed Figueiredo, the defender from Nottingham Forest, and he got promoted last year. So we're happy with that. Mika Seri, who was at Fulham. That's the real big one. Because initially we were very excited about signing these players or just being linked with them. Showed the ambition. We didn't actually think we'd be able to sign Seri, but we did. So I think that's definitely been our best signing. And I mean, other than that, and then Nathan Baxter, who came back from Chelsea on loan, he's the goalkeeper. Other than that, most of them are from abroad, or all of the other ones are from abroad. So it's a little bit more difficult to know how well they'll do. I think we're going to start signing some players from England now. That was talked about, that players from England who maybe are kind of higher level players didn't want to come to a team that had finished 19th last year. But now that they've seen we've signed these players from Turkey, they're starting to believe in the ambition of the club. So we might get a few more from England. But the other one that I think could be a really good player or could be terrible is Oscar Estepinian we signed him from Portugal. And he's a Colombian striker, and he scored 15 in Portugal last year, which is a good league. His team got into Europe, and it's amazing that a Championship team could get him. But on one hand, I think, well, that's an amazing signing, but how amazing is he if he's come here to the Championship? But
I mean, I guess
could be really good.
I guess you've had more experience of signing that kind of quality because of your time in the Premier League, whereas
we signed some stinkers in the Premier League, really.
Yeah, I guess you've had that as well, but it will be interesting. It's the settling in bit I always think for players that are coming in from outside, but it will be interesting to see. It's a bit of a. I was kind of hoping we wouldn't be playing you this early just because of the length of the journey, but also because of the fact you'd made those signings.
But we have 11 players injured at the moment, so
we're
going to barely have an actual team to play, and I mean, you mentioned earlier that, or I mentioned that we hate Peterborough. We hate them even more because we just lost to them 3-0 in a friendly, and everyone's very worried because of that. It was a very poor display. So really, a month ago, I was very looking forward to this match, thinking at home against a team who finished lower mid-table, that'd be a good start. But at the moment, because of the injuries and the fitness issues we have, because the thing about signing free agents is that they've not been at a club for pre-season for most of it. So I think the first month, the first games, we're going to have injuries, and then after that, we've got Sheffield United, West Brom, Norwich, Burnley, Coventry, QPR, I think, which is quite a difficult run to begin with. The first month, I'm almost going to just write it off, and we'll see how we are after that.
So do you think those injuries they're not going to be fit for the weekend? You are likely to be relatively bare bones for Saturday's game, or?
Well, we'll have a solid enough team. We will have a full 11, and it'll be decent. But there's only going to be, I think, 3 or 4 new signings. I think we have Adama Traore and Sinic from Turkey that we've signed. Traore, new signing, is injured until Christmas already without playing. And Sinic is on crutches, and we don't know how bad that is. So it could be that we've signed these 2 players from the Turkish league, and we might not see them for months yet. So the bedding in period is going to be difficult early on. But the team will be a mix of Turkish players and new signings, and then most of the players will be from last year. The lineup on Saturday.
Yeah, interesting.
So what else have we got? Well, the last match we played against Bristol, I don't really want to talk about it because it was terrible. 5-0. Because we'd had an amazing away record up until then, and our defence was definitely our best part of the last season, because scoring goals, we didn't score anywhere near enough, but the defence was good. And I think we conceded 3 goals in 2 matches before then, and then conceded 5 against a lower team. So that was probably just players on the beach by then. But
I think you've got that. I think it was our last home game of the season, and we scored a couple of really. I mean, the goal that Andy Vyman scored, the chip for the last one, was incredible. But I was actually in the States on holiday at the time, so I ended up watching it. On an iPad. So I was disappointed to miss the best result of our season. Having travelled home and away for all the season to miss the best game, but you get those results, don't you? It's I wouldn't put anything on that game.
Good,
ready for this one. Don't get me wrong, I take the same result, but it tends to be a draw. I think last season, what did we finish last season? 1-1 or 2-2? I think
it was 2-2. It was 2-2. We thought we'd won it, and then it was like a 90th minute winner or something, or equaliser for Bristol.
George Honeyman scored your second, I remember.
Yeah.
And then I can't think who scored us. Might have been one of the defenders, thinking about it.
I think it was Semenyo and someone else.
Yeah.
Maybe not Vyman.
No,
but then of course it was Vyman who scored that lovely chipped goal against us last season. So
it was.
But you're saying about these injuries, he's not injured, is he?
He's not. No, he's not. He's come back from. So he was on international duty with Austria. Because of his season, he got a recall in the Austrian squad after about 7 or 8 years, I think.
Yeah.
And pre-season looks really, really confident. I think the season he's like his contribution last year was unlike anything he'd ever done before. And I think he's got a new degree of confidence. Chris Martins looks good in pre-season. We've got a lad in midfield, Joe Williams, who was on Everton's books and then went to Wigan, and we signed him and has been injured really for most of the couple of seasons that we've had him. But now seems to be fit. I think he will be managed throughout the season. So when we have sort of Tuesday, Saturday, he probably won't play the midweek game, but he will be a big player as well for us. So, but we had a history of that, because I think, am I right in thinking Liam Walsh was on loan with you? Has he come back to you, Liam Walsh from Swansea?
No, I think he played. Well, he hit the post against us with a free kick. Then we signed him a week later, and he played one match at Derby. We lost 3-1, and he never played again. So
Right, okay.
no, we're not a
Yeah.
big fan of Liam Walsh, really.
Well, it was the
He
same
didn't
for
do
us.
anything wrong. He just didn't
He
play.
just he didn't play for us. He was injured a huge amount of time, and then his contract was up at the end of last season, and he decided he wanted to go. And I don't know what terms he'd been offered, but you kind of thought, you'd been here for a couple of years, been out injured for a huge amount of it, and then didn't show any loyalty on the back. But that's just a fan's view without knowing all the ins and outs of it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But if we've got a full the squad that's been in the pre-season, we've got a decent 11. From a bench point of view, we've got a couple that are probably filling in, a couple of youngsters that will come into it. One or two that have got a really, really bright future, but it might just be a little bit too soon for them in the Championship.
Well, you mentioned a good 11 there. Can you give us an idea of what your lineup will be on Saturday?
Yeah, if the pre-season is anything to go by, so we're likely to start with Dan Bentley in goal. So is excellent at this level. Was talked about under Lee Johnson as being a possible England international. Had a little run of form last season where we were conceding a lot of goals, not directly because of him, but he got dropped, and we brought in a youngster, Max O'Leary. And Max did okay, but we were still conceding the goals. Max got injured. Dan came back into the team, and from that point on was brilliant. He's the sort of keeper that saves you points. And that sounds a bit of a strange thing to say, but he really does.
We'd hope so.
Makes worldy saves, and he's the key. So he will start, I'm sure. Again, all injuries being allowed. Right wing back will be Kane Wilson. He didn't play in the last pre-season game. But Nigel Pearson said he was just kind of resting him because he had a bit of a knock, but he expects him to play. The left wing back is probably going to be Jay Da Silva, a young lad that we'd signed from Chelsea a couple of years back. We tend to play a kind of a three with the wing backs.
That's
so
same for us.
Is it right? Well, the three are likely to be Rob Atkinson, who was signed last season from Oxford. Had a really good year, but had COVID, so saw a dip in form. Naismith, who I've talked about. And the third one, we signed Tim Closer, the Norwich centre-half, in January. He'd left Norwich the year before, hadn't played a lot. Your point about signing players who were free agents. We signed him. He was brilliant for us at the end of last season. Then signed him on I think a 2-year contract, certainly a year with an option, I think. And he's not been great in pre-season. He's had a couple of wobbly moments. So it will either be him as the third centre back, or it may be a Bristolian lad, a lad called Zach Viner, who's played a lot of minutes in pre-season. We'd thought his time at the club had gone because he's a player that gives 100% but has a mistake in him. And he did that a couple of times last season, and Nigel Pearson almost didn't call him out by name, but sort of said, we're making the same mistakes and we can't keep doing it. So he would be a surprise, but he's as I say, he's played a lot of pre-season games, so he may be, but I think it's likely to be Closer. And then the midfield will be Matty James, ex-Leicester, who Nigel Pearson loves. Joe Williams, who I've talked about, was I would expect to play. And then it's a toss-up probably between Alex Scott, the youngster that I was talking about, or Sykes, the one that we signed from Oxford.
Right.
I think most City fans would go for Alex Scott. He's a huge talent. Talked about Spurs being in for him, 20 million plus. He played a huge amount of games last season as a right wing back, which isn't his position. But he's one of those players, Nathaniel, that the manager can say to him, I want you to play in goal this week. I want you to play left back this week. And he would do it, and would do it with a smile on his face.
If Nigel's had too much to drink, he can say, put him in goal.
Yeah. But I think his best position, I think a lot of City fans think his best position will be in midfield and possibly in behind the front two. And then the front two will be Chris Martin and Andy Vyman.
Okay.
Yeah. And Naki Wells probably will be on the bench. Right. We've got another youngster, Tommy Conway, a centre forward, who just has a knack of scoring goals. So I think he will feature as well. Midfielder Hanno Masengo, a bit of a cult following at the club. He's a young French lad with a huge, great afro. But he's out of contract at the end of the season. He's had a new contract offer on the table, hasn't signed it. And Nigel Pearson came out this week and sort of said he will get game time, but only as and when he's needed. So not really as a first teamer. So that will be interesting. But yeah, if I say the 11 I've given you, then I think that will be the 11 we'll start with.
Okay,
yeah. What did I say? Bentley, Wilson, De Silva, Atkinson, Naismith, Kloss, Williams, James, Scott, Vyman, Martin. Yeah.
Is that 11? Good. I stopped counting.
11.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good. So the last two things. Usually we always ask for a score prediction, but as it's the first game, I'd also like to know where you think Bristol City will finish, and maybe controversially, where do you think Hull City will finish as well?
Yeah. So score-wise, I don't like to predict scores.
Yeah, but I've just got
a feeling. Yeah, you've got to. I've just got a feeling that it will be a draw. I think there will be goals in it because I think both sides potentially have a mistake in them.
Yeah.
So and we haven't over the last few seasons, unusually for our record with Hull City, and we won't talk about Dean Windass and that goal. But
what goal?
we haven't always had the greatest record against Hull City, but we've done okay the last couple of years. We've had a few wins up there.
I think we have a poor record against Bristol though. So
yeah, well, I think you're right. I think recently, definitely, I remember Josh Brownhill scored a winner with a bit of a cracking shot, and then Benik Afobe, when he was on loan with us, scored a couple 2 seasons ago. So yeah, I'll go for another 2-2.
Yeah, I think that could be right.
Yeah, I'll go 2-2.
Yeah, as I said about a month ago, I would have predicted a confident win, but with the injuries and the fitness issues, I think maybe an entertaining score draw.
Yeah,
2-2. I think we could go with
it's
that.
It's like anything. I don't know if you watched the Lionesses last night, but they were second best early on. Sweden couldn't score. As soon as we scored, the confidence is there, and so the same thing. Goals change games, don't they? So yeah, if we 2-2, I won't say any more than that. In terms of where we'll finish, I think mid-table again. I think as long as I sort of keep referencing, as long as we see a better spectacle, entertaining football, I think I sort of predict we'll finish around 13th, 14th. I think.
So an improvement.
Yeah, I absolutely would take us to improve. And I think if we don't, then I think questions would certainly be asked of Nigel Pearson. Again, if you get the win behind you and the confidence, then arguably we could finish in the top 10. As I said, you look at Huddersfield, they were terrible the season before, and managed to make the playoff final. So you don't ever know. And Hull City, in truth, I don't know.
No one knows.
I don't know how the new manager's been received. I think you had a decent start from what I remember, but then a couple of results. I don't really put much on pre-season. I think it's about fitness. I certainly don't worry about results on pre-season. So I think you could be in and around where I'm talking about Bristol City finishing. There might be one or two places between us. I don't see you necessarily struggling. Because I think, again, there will probably be a couple of other clubs that, Birmingham look like they could be the side that implodes a little bit. And then the sides that come up, you think that they're likely to struggle. Sunderland, I don't know. Sunderland is an interesting one. They could be near the top or they could be near the bottom. You just don't know what they're going to get. So, yeah, I think both of us will be around that mid-table mark.
Do you know how many supporters there'll be there?
I don't know what we've sold. I'll be there. I don't know
one, at least one.
Yeah, well, no. So what I was going to say is, I know lots of mates of mine who and fans through the podcast and stuff. Because it's the first game of the season, even though it's miles, I actually think we'll probably take our biggest following that we've had at your stadium for quite a while. So. Yeah, I don't know what we've sold, but I'd expect, I don't know, between maybe 1,500, 2,000, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be good, because I think there's
We've got a
supposed to
decent
be
following.
17, 18,000 Hull fans there, at
Right.
least
Okay.
for the first match. The second ever game I went to was Hull Bristol. It was a cold Tuesday. It was when Hull got promoted and you went down to League One in
Right.
2013. I think there was like 81 or 91 Bristol fans there.
Yeah. Well,
So it should be more
wouldn't
than that.
surprise me. But I don't know if you've done the reverse trek, but it's a hell of a trek to Hull from
Yes,
Bristol.
yeah. I wouldn't like to really, especially if we lost 5-0 again.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, hell of a trek, and I think there's a train strike the weekend as well, so I think that's also had a bit of an impact. But yeah, we'll make enough noise, I'm sure.
Okay, so you think it might be 2-2? I'll probably agree with you. A 2-2 might be decent. And I did my league table predictions the other day, and I think you'll improve, but not by a huge amount, because I'm a bit unconvinced by, well, firstly, whether Vyman could be consistent again.
Yeah.
And Naismith's good, but the other two are unproven, but they look fairly decent. So I've said 16th. Because honestly, I thought 16th was where you finished last year, and I thought probably stay the same.
Yeah,
easy enough.
I think. I think the expectation is certainly higher than that. The expectation is certainly higher than that.
Well, that's good. Early season optimism.
I like Ant's enthusiasm there too.
Yes,
so,
I like it too.
We'll see.
All right. Well, I think we've covered pretty much everything. Good luck for the rest of the season after Saturday.
Thank you, and same to you.
And I hope you get battered, really. But as revenge for last season. But great talking.
I think you still owe us a few after that Wembley game.
Maybe we're still repaying that. Yeah.
Still watch it on Sky, and still can't believe that we never won the game. So
why do you keep watching it?
Well, I
just pushing you through the pain.
Yeah, exactly. But it's the only one we've ever had where we've got to that stage. Look, so yeah. But we'll see.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very
much.
All the best. For coming on.
Thanks, Daniel, and good luck to all you Tigers fans.